Imagine opening your phone and seeing this headline: PGA Tour in panic. Rory McIlroy's lawyers drop a cease and desist on Rolap. Your first thought is probably the same as mine. What on earth did Brian Rolapp do to push Rory McIlroy, the face of the tour, to actually bring in the lawyers? Because Rory is not the type to sue his own boss. He is the diplomat, the guy who tries to keep everyone happy. He shakes hands, he gives thoughtful answers, he plays the role of the elder statesman perfectly. So if the lawyers are involved, something has clearly gone nuclear behind the scenes. This is not a contract dispute. This is not a sponsorship issue. This is a full-blown power struggle between the biggest star in the game and the most powerful executive in the sport. And the scary part? Neither of them is backing down. Now, we are not going to waste your time with speculation. We are going to walk you through exactly what triggered this legal threat. The two specific decisions that turned a CEO and his biggest star from allies into enemies. We will reveal who Brian Rolapp really is, why he made the choices he made, and most importantly, what Rory McIlroy saw that made him pick up the phone and call his legal team. But we are not giving you the full answer right now. Because to understand the ending, you have to understand the mess that led to it. The rulebook, the exemptions, the public insults, and the power struggle that is now threatening to tear the PGA Tour apart from the inside out. This is not a story about paperwork. This is a story about respect, control, and the future of professional golf. Before we dive into the details, I have to ask for your opinion. Do you think Rory is right to fight back, or is Rolap just doing his job? Drop your honest take in the comments, and if you want the raw truth about what is really happening on the tour, hit that subscribe button. We don't do corporate spin here. So, who exactly is Brian Rolapp? Most casual fans only know Jay Monahan. He was the face of the PGA Tour during the LIV war. The guy who stood on podiums and talked about loyalty and tradition. But Monahan stepped back, and Rolap took over the reins. He is not a traditional golf guy. He did not grow up on the fairways. He came from the business side, a numbers guy brought in to fix the financial chaos caused by the Saudi invasion. His job was simple: streamline the tour, make it profitable, and stop the bleeding. He immediately started pushing massive structural changes. The most controversial one was the two-tier system, Track 1 and Track 2. Track 1 would be the elite events, $20 million purses, limited fields, the creme de la creme of golf. Track 2 would be essentially a feeder tour for the rest, a glorified development circuit. In his mind, this was the only way to compete with the Saudis. Create a product so exclusive, so lucrative, that sponsors would throw money at it and players would fight to get in. But in doing so, he ignored something crucial: the soul of the game. The meritocracy that players like Rory McIlroy grew up respecting. Rolap viewed the tour as a business asset. Rory viewed it as a sacred institution. And that fundamental difference in perspective was the spark that would eventually ignite a fire that nobody could put out. Rolap thought he was protecting his biggest asset. Instead, he just proved that the rules do not apply to everyone equally. But that exemption was just the warm-up act. The real damage came when Rory opened his mouth about Rolap's master plan. Now, let us talk about the first decision that triggered the chaos: the exemption. The PGA Tour has a rule that has been in place for years. Players must compete in at least 15 events per season to maintain their membership. It is a simple rule designed to ensure the stars actually show up for the fans, for the sponsors, and for the tournaments that rely on ticket sales. 15 events. That is the number. It is not negotiable, or at least it was not supposed to be. But here is the problem. Rory McIlroy is on track to play only 14 events this season. 14. One short. Under normal circumstances, he would face penalties, fines, or even lose his membership status. The rule is the rule, right? But Rolap used a special clause called the discretionary exception to let Rory off the hook. He basically said, "We will not punish him because he is a foreign member and there are special circumstances." Now, that sounds reasonable on paper. Maybe he has international commitments. Maybe he is dealing with family issues. But none of that was true. He just chose to play less, and the CEO simply waved the rule away. That is the kind of thing that makes other players furious. Imagine you are a journeyman grinding every week, playing 30 events just to keep your card, waking up at 4 in the morning, flying across time zones, sleeping in hotel rooms, missing your kids' birthdays. You see the biggest star get a free pass for playing fewer events while you are killing yourself to make cuts. How do you think that feels? The golf media exploded. Foreplay, one of the biggest golf channels, called it out directly on their show. Josiah, a respected insider, said it was a clear case of favoritism and that the tour was setting a dangerous precedent. Fans went crazy on social media, demanding transparency. They wanted to know what the special circumstances actually were. Was he injured? No. Was he dealing with family issues? No. He just chose to play less, and the CEO simply waved the rule away. That was the first crack in the armor, the first sign that the system was not fair. The first moment when players started looking at each other and wondering, if the rules don't apply to him, why should they apply to us? That decision alone would have been enough to damage trust, but what happened next turned a crack into a canyon and made the exemption look like a minor footnote. That brings us to the second trigger, the public execution. Rolap had been promoting his new two-tier system for months. He was selling it as the future of golf, the salvation of the tour, the answer to the LIV problem. He gave interviews, he made presentations, he was all in. But when Rory was asked about it during a press conference, he did not hold back. He looked at the reporters with that calm, measured expression he is famous for, and he dropped a bomb. He said, Track 2 is just a glorified Korn Ferry event. Let that sink in. The biggest star in the sport just compared the CEO's flagship reform to a second-rate developmental tour. It was a brutal, calculated insult. And Rory did not stop there. He went on to explain that the elite players, the ones on Track 1, would still skip events. He said the problem was not the structure of the tour, it was the schedule itself. He basically told the CEO, your plan does not fix the issue. You are just creating a new problem. You are rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. For a man like Rolap, that was a public humiliation. You cannot have your top employee call your strategy a joke on international television. You cannot have the face of your brand tell the world that your master plan is fundamentally flawed. The relationship was now fractured beyond repair. It was no longer about scheduling or rules. It was about respect, or the complete lack of it. And remember, the fans are watching all of this. They are seeing Rory take a stand, not just for himself, but for the integrity of the game. They are seeing Rolap try to force through a system that nobody asked for, and they are choosing sides. Rory had publicly embarrassed the new sheriff, and in the corporate world there is no coming back from that. But Rory knew exactly what he was doing. He was not just venting. He was drawing a line in the sand that would define his legacy. Now, we arrive at the moment that gave us that explosive headline, the cease and desist. But here is the truth that the mainstream media is missing. The lawyers have not actually filed a lawsuit yet, at least not officially. What they have done is send a very clear warning shot to the PGA Tour headquarters. Rory's legal team made it known that if Rolap continues to push his two-tier system through without proper player consultation, they will take legal action to block it. The cease and desist was a threat, a nuclear option. It was a way of saying, stop this reform or we will see you in court. So why did Rory do it? Why would he risk his relationship with the tour over a system that has not even been implemented yet? Because he feels that Rolap is acting like a dictator, not a commissioner. He is making sweeping changes to the structure of the tour without getting the proper buy-in from the players. The rulebook is being rewritten without a vote. The discretionary exemption was just a symptom of a larger disease. A CEO who thinks he knows better than the guys who actually hit the shots. A CEO who is more interested in spreadsheets than in fairways. And Rory, who has spent his entire career fighting for the integrity of the game, refused to sit back and watch it happen. The cease and desist was his way of saying, you do not have the authority to do this alone. You need to listen to us. It was a power play. It was a message. And it was a warning that if Rolap did not back down, the legal system would be the next step. And that is the core of the conflict. This is not about Rory skipping a few events. This is about who holds the power in professional golf, the players or the executives. Let us take a step back and look at the bigger picture here. Why is the PGA Tour in panic? It is not because of the legal fees. It is not because of the bad press. It is because they have lost the locker room. If the #1 player in the world is threatening to sue his own CEO, the rest of the players are watching closely. They are asking themselves, if they treat Rory like this, what will they do to me? The trust is gone. The players no longer believe that the management has their best interests at heart. And when that happens, the whole system starts to crumble. The sponsors get nervous, the networks get nervous, the Saudi investors who are still circling see a fractured organization. They see weakness. They see an opening. That is the real panic. It is not about one piece of paper from a law firm. It is about the existential threat of a unified tour falling apart from the inside. Imagine you are a player on the bubble. You need to make cuts to keep your card. You are playing your heart out every week. And then you see the CEO giving the biggest star a free pass on the rules. You see the biggest star calling the new system a joke. You realize that the people running the show do not have a plan. They are just reacting to the chaos around them. How do you feel? You feel hopeless. You feel like the system is rigged against the little guy. And that is the tragedy of this whole situation. Rory McIlroy is not fighting for himself. He has enough money to retire tomorrow. He has enough trophies to fill a museum. He is fighting for the integrity of the game. He is fighting for the journeymen who do not have the power to fight for themselves. He is fighting for the fans who want to see a fair competition, not a corporate takeover. The cease and desist is not about Rory's ego. It is about stopping a CEO who has gone too far. Now, we have to address the elephant in the room. Was Rory wrong to speak out? Some fans think he is being arrogant. They think he should just play golf and stop complaining. They think he is acting like a spoiled superstar who does not want to follow the rules. But let us be honest. If the CEO is making decisions that affect your career, your schedule, and your legacy, you have a right to speak up. Rory has earned that right through his 19 wins and 4 majors. He has sacrificed more for this tour than Rolap ever will. He has given his time, his energy, and his reputation to the game. And if he feels that the tour is heading in the wrong direction, he has a duty to sound the alarm. The real question is, why is Rolap not listening? Why is he pushing forward with a plan that his biggest star publicly hates? Why is he ignoring the very people who make the product worth watching? That is the definition of arrogance. And that is why the lawyers got involved. Because sometimes the only language that power understands is the threat of legal action. I am going to leave you with one final question. The next time you watch a PGA Tour event, think about who is really in charge. Is it the players who risk their bodies every week? Or is it the executives sitting in an office making decisions on a spreadsheet? Drop a comment below with your honest take. Do you think Rory is the hero in this story, or is he just protecting his own schedule? And if you want to stay updated on this legal battle as it unfolds, make sure you have smashed that subscribe button. This is not a story about lawyers. It is a story about power, about respect, about a generation of players who refuse to be treated like assets. Rolap thought he could control the game with money and structure. He thought he could bend the rules for the stars and bully the rest into submission. He forgot that the game belongs to the players. He forgot that without the players, there is no product, no sponsorship, no television deal, no tour at all. Rory McIlroy reminded him of that in the most brutal way possible. The cease and desist is a warning. It is a line drawn in the sand. And whether you agree with Rory or not, one thing is certain. Professional golf will never be the same after this. The panic is real. The chaos is real. The trust is broken. And the only thing we can do is watch and wait to see who blinks first. Will Rolap back down and consult the players? Will Rory follow through with the lawsuit? Will the tour survive this internal war? Nobody knows. But one thing is clear. The days of the commissioner acting like a king are over. The players are fighting back, and the fans are watching every single move. Until next time, keep your eyes on the fairways, and never stop questioning the game you love.